Hey guys, welcome back to another segment of It's Getting Real, a place where we explore the stories behind tragic crimes. My name is Tisha, and I'm not going to lie to you. This is a tough one because I don't see how you can say that you love someone and do what was done in this case. This case is heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking reminder of the evil that exists in all forms, even in the people closest to you. Today, we will explore the case of Tynesha Stewart, a bright 19-year-old student whose disappearance sparked a family's fight for justice. Born on July 10th, 1987, in Galveston, Texas, to Gail Shields, she was one of six children in a tight knit family. Tanisha Stewart made her mark early in life. She was the perfect daughter, sister, and friend, described by loved ones as talented, friendly, kind, and driven. She was beautiful inside as well as out. She was smart and ambitious. She loved school. She loved smiling and not just smiling herself, but making others smile as well. She worked hard at a pizza shop. She loved to sing. She was part of a varsity choir where she was known not to be just small, but for her voice being mighty. So she was working. She was involved in extracurricular activities and she's managing to maintain her grades. She was no stranger to achievement, winning a $40,000 scholarship her junior year of high school. She was going places. This young woman earned $40,000 scholarship to A&M University, graduating in the top 3% of her high school class. We're talking ambition out of this world. We're talking National Honor Society and straight A's, and all of this while working and maintaining her friendships. So Tynesha heads to college. It is her freshman year, and she is ready to begin her studies in civil engineering. All is well. She needs new friends, she's exploring, and she's living life. She comes home after her first semester, and there is a notable change in her. She's happier, she's more outgoing, and she has met a new man. She has plans to eventually come back for spring break and hang out with her girlfriends. But heading into spring break in March 2007, everything changes when she stops responding to her friends' text messages. They were supposed to be hanging out later that weekend, and the silence was concerning. Some of them talked to her on Wednesday and everything seemed to be okay, but on Thursday there was silence, which was not like her. And then Friday, more silence. So her friends are texting as well as calling, and no one can reach her because they cannot figure out why Tynesha isn't responding, neither to her friends nor to her family. So, out of concern for her safety, Tynesha's sister, Gayla, encourages her mother to contact law enforcement. Concerned for her safety, Tynesha's family reaches out to law enforcement. However, they were met with a little bit of indifference. Police tell the family to call back in a few days. You guys know the famous 48-hour rule. Like, we've listened to enough cases to know that for whatever reason, police feel like you should wait because there's a time period where people may just come back. They're assuming that Tynesha is simply enjoying her spring break, but her friends and her family know better. They're telling enforcement that she is not the type of person to do that. She is the planner, she's the communicator. She would never just go off on her own without letting someone know where she was going, without telling her family. So Friday, they're calling, Saturday, then Sunday. Friends and family are searching for their loved one. They're calling each other. They're calling the jails. They're calling multiple hospitals, trying to locate Tynesha. Monday arrives and there is still no sign of her. Spring break is over and she is expected to be back at class and she is still not there. She doesn't attend any of her classes scheduled for that day. It has been 4 days. Her loved ones end up gathering at a Lutheran church in Houston to raise awareness of her disappearance. They hold a visual, they hand out flyers, and seek help from the community, determined to find out where she is. I don't know why it took so long. I don't know if the reason why the police finally responded is because of the visual and the impact that it was having, but a deputy is finally assigned to the family. Deputy JD. He comes, he is known to look for missing persons. He responds to the church visual and he begins immediately gathering information. The community is not playing games because they already started to do the things that police weren't willing to do. Right? They started looking into things even before police did. One of Tanisha's cousins mentioned the name Timothy Shepard. Now, Timothy Shepard is Tanisha's ex boyfriend. He is 8 years older than her. They met while working together at a local pizza shop. She was 16 at the time and he was 24. We can all sit here and judge the situation, saying there's no way that we would allow that to happen if we were that person's parent or loved one. But let me tell you from personal experience, being that I was 19 years old and I dated someone who's 26, and I knew that my parents did not approve of it, I can see how this can happen. So let's show the family grace in this, because there's only so much they could do. Some of the family do not like their age difference. But as I said, there's only so much you can do. They didn't know at the time that he was controlling. They didn't know that he was possessive. And they definitely didn't know that he was abusive. Despite this, Tanisha dated him even after she left for school. It was long distance in the beginning, and there were some struggles. So at some point, she decided that she needed to end their relationship and focus on her studies. Not just her studies, but also because she met someone new. This guy was attending another college and he made her laugh. He made her smile. He was a good guy that was her age. So, as I said earlier, the cousin mentioned to the investigator, to the deputy JD, that she was trying to reach out to Timothy, but he was not answering. Turns out that someone told the cousin that Tynesha was seen on Thursday at his apartment. Now, Timothy Shepard lives very close to the church. From what I understand, it's not even a mile away, right? So the deputy decides, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pay him a visit. He's not at this visual. Let me go visit him at his apartment. So he goes knocking on the door. And of course, what do you know? Timothy doesn't answer. But the apartment manager comes out and tells the deputy that there was a fire there a few days ago. As he's canvassing the area, another neighbor comes out and mentions, oh, not only was there a fire, but I heard some, pow pows in the woods a few days ago. So Deputy JD is now not just concerned about this fire that has piqued his interest, but now he has to think about the woods. So he goes into the area where the shots were heard. He says his words that he smells death. He's nervous because he's afraid that it may be Tanisha. So they get cadaver dogs, they do a search, they end up finding something, but it turns out to be a dead animal. Deputy JD is relieved and he determines that he needs to go back to the church where the visual is so he can question more people and gather more information. While there, he reaches out to the fire department because, as I said, the manager of the apartment complex let him know that there was a fire there. So he reaches out to the fire department to ask questions regarding the fire that happened a few days prior at Timothy's house. He's told that there was smoke all around the complex. And even though there was smoke around the complex when they were knocking on his apartment door, Timothy would not open the door. They knocked for several minutes and he still wouldn't open it. He did not open the door until a deputy showed up and told him he needed to open the door. So they go through the apartment out to the patio and they put out that fire. They're like, what's going on? What are you cooking? And he says he's cooking meat. They search the apartment. Everything looks normal with the exception of the bathroom. There is a lot of what is assumed to be animal meat covered by ice. They do not ask any questions, they just leave. Let's be clear here. Let me say this. I do not understand why they would see something as alarming as that in a bathtub and not question it further. Why they would not decide, you know what, we need to call law enforcement so they can kind of look into this, because it's not often that you find meat in a bathtub covered in ice that has a distinct odor. When Deputy JD hears this, he can't believe what he's hearing. He ends up getting off the phone with the fire department, and Tanisha's cousin approaches him, letting him know that Timothy is on the phone. So he talks to him on the phone, says, "You know what? I need you to come up here and meet me at the church." He arrives, right? He is then later taken into homicide to be interviewed by Sergeant Miller of the Homicide Division at Harris County Sheriff's Office. There, Timothy admits to seeing Tynesha on March 15th. That doesn't surprise her friends because she was supposed to be ending things with him before she went back to school. I'm going to insert this here. It is okay not to give people closure. It is okay not to say goodbye, not to meet up with them, not to make them feel like they get answers, because he's not owed anything. So he admits that he had picked up Tynesha early that morning, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, claiming that at that time she received a call from her new male friend, which led to him getting upset, them having a confrontation. She decided that she was going to leave on foot, never to be seen again. Who lets a woman walk alone that time in the morning by themselves? He could have easily taken her back to the friend's house where she was staying at, but that's not what he claims he did. So now there's concern that maybe somebody picked her up or something like that, because at this point, it's been 5 days. No one has heard from her. Let me add, her phone was left at her friend's home, so no one could even contact her. So Timothy gives investigators permission to enter his home. The moment that detectives enter, they notice that there are some strange things going on in that apartment. There is fresh paint on the walls. There are bleach stains on the carpet. There is a suspiciously, detectives' words, clean tub. There are bleach bottles and ammonia bottles, and the floor looks freshly mopped. There's no type of carpeting or anything like that in the bathroom floor. It just seems to be really clean. So they swab various areas and they take DNA away for analysis, and Timothy is allowed to return home. Now, Sergeant Miller has been with homicide for some time, so he decides to go back and interview some additional neighbors. He is told that there was a pounding the previous night, that they could hear the garbage disposal running because there's thin walls for long periods of time. And the neighbor said that the so called barbecue smelled nothing like barbecue. One going as far as saying that it smelled like a dead animal. At this point, the family is concerned. because detectives are doing this search, they're doing this investigation, but they're not telling the family everything that is going on. They're not giving the family enough answers. They feel like they need to get an advocate of some sort. So they reach out to this man by the name of Quanell. He represents families a lot of times in social injustice situations. To me, this is my opinion, this was not a social injustice situation, but I can understand why the family would think that, right? Because y'all already kind of pushed them to the side and didn't look for their daughter. It took 4 days for you to even be willing to send someone out. So I can get why they would feel that way. I don't feel like this was racism, but I do feel like there was negligence in this. So he's a civil rights activist known for his advocacy in the Black community. But Quanell soon found himself to be in a complex situation because not only did Tynesha's family reach out to him, specifically the sister calling, one of her sisters calling and telling him that law enforcement isn't telling them anything. They need his help in finding, their loved one. But Timothy's family reached out to him too, asking if he can help. This is a mess because here this man is being pulled in two different directions. But I guess he's thinking, there's nothing wrong here. Both of these parties are trying to find out where this beautiful young woman is. So what he does is Quanell goes and he talks to Timothy with two goals that he says he has in mind. First one is to protect Timothy from the cops that might be intimidating him, that might be making him say things or admit to things that aren't true. And his second is to find out what has happened to this beautiful young lady. So he goes and meets up with Timothy. At some point, they end up at his apartment. He speaks with him one-on-one, where Quanell says to him, "Brother, tell me the truth. Do you know what happened to her?" And he is told yes. Quanell then reaches out after his conversation to a reporter that he trusts. That reporter reaches out to the detective on the case, Sergeant Miller, claiming Timothy knows where the body is. Oh my goodness. They end up driving to a dumpster in search for her, which unfortunately, that dumpster had already been discarded at the landfill. Timothy is arrested and asked to speak. He has a lawyer present, so they can't ask him anything. And he says he wants to talk. He's waiving the whole attorney thing, and he tells his story. What's his story? Here's his story. Let me tell y'all his story. He says on the night of the 12th, that Tynesha spent the night at his house. She got a phone call at 4 from the new guy she was dating. Wait, was it the 12th? Don't quote me on the 12th. I think he said the 12th in the video, because I watched the clip of it. She got a phone call at 4 from the new guy she was dating. He gets upset and he confronts her. This is what he claims. He says she grabs a knife off of an end table, trying to get him with it, and he ends up choking her because he's trying to protect himself. He claims he can't remember much after that except that she was on the floor and she wasn't breathing. He knew then that he needed to cover his tracks. So he claims that he put her inside of the dumpster. But that isn't true because it gets worse than what I just told you. The family is once again let down by detectives because the landfill where she could possibly be is over 500 acres and they do not have the manpower or the money to search for her. This has to be devastating to the family that already feels like their sister is being treated differently. But there's so much more to this. The detectives end up going back to the apartment to search some more. In a devastating discovery, the investigators find charred remains in various areas, both inside and outside of the apartment, as well as charred bone on the ground of the apartment below because he's on the second floor and there's an apartment underneath him. They find burnt hair, leading them to believe that Tynesha had been dismembered and burned. The thing that the neighbors were smelling was her body being cooked on a grill. In the garbage disposal of Timothy's apartment, they find bones, teeth, and enamel. The enamel is consistent with the DNA of Tynesha, meaning that he ended her life and dismembered and burned her there. I don't understand why they didn't see all of this the first time that they went in that apartment. Detectives then have the painful task of telling Tanisha's mom that not only was her child unalived, but there would be no body, no part of her to bring back to them. He got rid of this beautiful young woman because she wanted more. He got rid of her because she didn't want him. The trial began in September 2008, led by Chief Prosecutor Marie Prim. During the trial, her college roommate testifies that Timothy was a menace, that he had gotten physically violent with Tanisha on multiple occasions, that she tried to leave him alone, that he called her phone, he called her room phone, that he came up to her college, that he tried to go as far as getting into her dorm room, that he constantly harassed her. The firefighter that had spoke with Deputy JD gave his testimony saying that he saw what he believed was a rack of ribs on ice in the tub. And at no time did he think to himself that that could be the body of a young woman. That is horrifying. The DNA analysis testified about the bone fragments and the teeth and the hair that they found, not only in the disposal, but also in the tub. The forensic anthropologist spoke of markings that were found on the bone that showed different attempts to dismember it. I'm listening to this and I can't begin to imagine how horrifying this had to be for her loved ones to have to sit in that courtroom and hear what this man had done to her. The case was challenging, especially with Timothy Shepard's defense attorney, who had a reputation for, defending high profile criminal cases. If you got the money, he's willing to defend you. Throughout the trial, the evidence mounted against Timothy, including testimonies from the friends and the families about his controlling behavior. Ultimately, the jury found him guilty of murder and he was sentenced to 99 years in prison, along with a fine of $10,000. By the family, it was said, "You're no man. You're still a scared little boy. I feel sorry for you. Your soul is gone." Her mother said she will forgive Shepard and she hopes he gets mental help. She said, "I have to forgive Timothy if I'm going to see Tynesha again. Timothy once was a wonderful, wonderful man. There are always red flags, and young people need to recognize the red flags." And that's so true. It's so true. A statement was released. "In the interest of the public, we hope the media coverage will pay more attention to the details regarding the nature of the relationship between Tynesha and Tim that could lead to this event and less on the events that occurred after the murder." Meaning, we want you to pay attention to the flags, to the things that she was going through, to the harassment, to the jealousy, to the stalking, because we want to make sure that this doesn't happen to another person's loved one. An increased awareness of the indicators of domestic abuse could prevent such an event in the future. This young lady should have never been put in this situation. When a person is controlling and jealous and stalkerish and abusive, cut them off. When you're done, be done. There is no going back. The only person you owe an explanation to is you. Because a monster like Timothy Shepard is always looking for his end, and you can't give it to him. Thank you for joining me today as we remember the beautiful Tynesha Stewart, a young woman whose life was tragically cut short. Her story serves as a powerful reminder of how important it is to stay away from monsters like Timothy. She was done with him, and rather than letting her go, he took her life. I can't begin to imagine what would have become of this beautiful, intelligent young woman. And it's sad because Tynesha Stewart could have changed the world. I hope that she continues to rest, and I hope comfort is given to her family. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Until next time, peace.